Speaker.
I call the Honourable Member Paul Foster Bell.
Kia ora ana, Mr. Speaker.
Mitaki, Mr. Bell.
I am glad to rise and seek a call on this first reading of the Sullivan Birth Certificate Bill. There's been significant national and, in fact, international attention on this issue. I counted no less than 10 articles online from various news outlets. I would like to acknowledge the member Louisa Wall for bringing this matter to the attention of the House. Louisa has put this issue forward as a matter of some importance to her and obviously to the individuals concerned, and I'm always open to discuss matters like this with my parliamentary colleagues. This particular bill seeks, as other members have traversed, to amend the birth certificate of Rowan Sullivan to reinsert Diane Sullivan as her mother. Diane died as a result of lung cancer, a horrific disease which I have lost friends and family members to. So I can only sympathise that Rowan, at the age of just 17, lost her mother to this disease, and her mother's partner, Doreen, became her guardian. As Jan Logie from the Green Party noted, this was a tragic course of events, particularly for someone so young to go through. And at the age of 18, finding that you would have no legal relationship with your caregiver despite a lifetime of being cared for by that person, I can understand would be particularly upsetting. After having worked overseas and dealing with parents who want to register a new birth, and noting that this is usually a happy occasion, I did come across cases where, for a number of reasons, this was complex or delicate or a sensitive issue. So I appreciate that this bill will bring to the surface some complexities and sensitivities and sympathies, especially for Rowan herself. As previous speakers have noted, this bill will require, in effect, the Registrar General of Births, Deaths and Marriages to record the details of Rowan Sullivan's deceased mother on her post-adoptive birth registration entry. Sir, as we are aware, most private bills are for organisations such as the Royal Society of New Zealand Amendment Act in 2012 or the Christ's College Amendment Act 2010 that have passed through this House in recent years. But in 1989 there was a private bill dealing with the estate of Alan Eames, and closer to this case, in 1985 the Parliament passed a law making lawful a marriage between Thomas Stockman and Rosalina Howe, despite Mr Stockman being the half-brother of Ms Howe's mother. I acknowledge that it is therefore not entirely unheard of for this House to be asked to implement changes like the ones that this bill is asking for. It has happened 6 times before, with 4 of those acts involving the posthumous adoption of individuals. 1 involved the adoption of an adult, and 1 directed the Registrar General to issue new birth certificates for those adopted children. But these cases are exceptional and relatively rare, and in this case the intention of the bill differs somewhat from these examples, as it simply requires the details to be recorded on the birth certificate. I think it is important to note that this issue would not have arisen if Rowan Sullivan's birth mother had been able to marry her long-term partner, and I am very glad that this kind of situation will hopefully be avoided in the future following the passing of the Marriage Definition of Marriage Amendment Act 2013 earlier this year, and I would again like to acknowledge the member Louisa Wall for her role that she played in that legislation. It's also encouraging to hear that the Department of Internal Affairs is making changes to its computer systems to enable same-sex adoptive parents to be included in the details of a person's official birth entry. Mr Speaker, as this bill focuses only on making a change to Rowan Sullivan's birth record, I'm somewhat uncertain what the effect of the bill would be on her ability to meet other legal requirements and processes in the future. For example, should Rowan marry or enter a civil union, it is not clear to me whether she would be entitled to list both of her mothers as parents on the notice of her intended marriage or civil union document. But I am interested in learning more about this and the complexities of this case, and perhaps I will have the opportunity to do so should it be considered by the Justice and Electoral Select Committee. And while this issue has an extremely narrow scope, more narrow than any other bill that I've yet spoken on in my relatively short time in this House, there is a risk that this bill could create a precedent, but I am willing to support this bill to Select Committee where it can be considered in full, and hopefully this House and the bureaucracy which provides these services to the public can find a better way of fixing problems like this in the future. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill for further consideration.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Member Louisa